Welcome back to the deep dive. And today, we are jumping right into the deep end.
We really are. Artificial intelligence.
Yeah, but not the usual, look what ChatGPT wrote segment. The sources you sent over, they make this case that what we're seeing now, it's not some sudden explosion.
Not at all. It's the end of a really long road. I mean, we're
Mm.
basically tracing a single signal from a theoretical model of a neuron in 1943
Yeah, 1943.
all the way to the agentic AI architectures that are launching right now.
That 1943 date always gets me. We had the math for a neuron before we really even had the silicon to run it on.
The theory was way, way ahead of the hardware. But the real practical kickoff, that's the 1950s.
Okay, so the Turing test, right? The imitation game.
Everyone knows that one. But the sources, they actually point to Arthur Samuel in 52. That was the pivotal moment.
With his checkers program.
Exactly. And the key was it learned from its own mistakes.
Yeah.
He actually coined the term machine learning right then and there.
Wow. So, before computers were even a thing in most businesses, we had software that was rewriting its own strategy.
Basically, yeah. And, that confidence led straight to the 1956 Dartmouth workshop.
Where the term artificial intelligence was officially born.
That's the one. And their goal wasn't just, building faster calculators. It was simulating every aspect of learning. They even built ELIZA in the 60s.
Right, the chatbot that acted like a psychotherapist.
A very primitive ancestor, yeah. It just proved you could sort of fake a conversation with some pretty simple pattern matching.
But then, the reality check hit. The AI winters.
Mm.
The sources usually blame funding cuts, but was it just that they overpromised?
It was a bit of that, but it was really hardware limitations colliding with something called Moravec's paradox.
Okay, I always trip up on this one. It feels completely backward.
It does.
You're telling me it's easier for an AI to beat a grandmaster at chess than it is to, what, fold a load of laundry?
It sounds crazy, right? But yes, chess is just pure logic and math. Computers love that. Laundry,
That's perception.
perception, physics, fine motor control. Evolution spent millions of years perfecting our sensoromotor skills. You can't just code that overnight.
So the industry pivoted to expert systems in the 80s.
Right, which were just rule-based solutions. But even that market collapsed because, well, standard desktop PCs just got too fast.
Which leads us to the resurgence, and I guess the big moment everyone remembers is Deep Blue.
Beating Kasparov in 97, yeah.
But that was just brute force, wasn't it? Just calculating outcomes faster than a human.
Exactly. It wasn't elegant. And that's why the leap to AlphaGo in 2016 was so massive.
The game of Go.
And Go has more possible moves than, I think, atoms in the known universe. You cannot brute force that.
So how did it win?
It had to use what Geoffrey Hinton had rebranded back in 2006 as deep learning. Basically, it developed something that looked, for all intents and purposes, like intuition.
So we have intuition, but AlphaGo couldn't, write a poem or debug code. It was silent. So what was the technical unlock? What got us from that to the large language models we have now?
It was one thing. The transformer.
From that 2017 Google paper, attention is all you need.
That's the one.
I know it's the architecture, but what problem did it actually fix?
Well, it was memory and context. Before 2017, AI models read like we do, left to right, word by word.
Okay.
So by the time a model got to the end of a long paragraph, it would often lose the context from the beginning.
It would lose the thread.
Exactly. The transformer architecture allowed the model to look at the entire sequence of words all at once. It processes the context in parallel instead of guessing sequentially.
And that parallel processing gave us the whole generative boom. But your notes suggest we're already moving past that.
We are. We're moving into what people are calling agentic AI.
Okay.
And this is the critical shift for the market right now. We're moving from models that can think and talk to models that can do.
Define do for me in this context.
So it's the difference between asking a chatbot, hey, write me an itinerary for a trip to Italy,
Right.
and having an agent actually book the flight, charge your card, and add the confirmation to your calendar, all without you checking every step.
It's autonomous execution. That is a massive trust leap. We're going from a conversational partner to an autonomous employee.
We are. And this whole trajectory, it's all pointing toward AGI, artificial general intelligence. And the source material leaves us with this really heavy concept to think about.
What's that?
If we get machines that understand biology and physics so deeply that they can solve the actual mechanisms of aging, well, we aren't just changing the tech stack anymore.
We're changing the definition of the human lifespan.
Yeah.
That is definitely something to mull over. Thanks for helping us decode the signal.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are looking right into the eye of the storm. We've got the AI and the Job Market Report 2026 here, and the authors are calling the current landscape a skills earthquake.
It feels a little dramatic, doesn't it? But the financial tremors are definitely real. For a while, the whole narrative was just fear. Robots are coming for your job.
Right.
But the 2026 reality is it's more nuanced. It's less about simple replacement and more about a complete transformation of what work even is.
Transformation is a good word, but I'm looking at this section on the wage premium, and that speaks volumes. Workers with advanced AI skills, we're talking prompting, orchestration, they're seeing wages 56% higher.
56. That's huge.
It's a massive divide for two people who might be sitting at, basically the same desk.
It signals that the market has completely bifurcated. You're either leveraging these tools to multiply your output or you're effectively working too slowly. The report frames this as moving from being a user to an orchestrator.
I saw that term, orchestrator. It sounds a bit like corporate jargon, doesn't it?
It does, a little. But when you dig into their section on agentic AI, the title actually starts to make sense. We aren't just chatting with bots anymore.
So what's the difference?
Well, that's the critical pivot for 2026. We've moved from tools to teammates. In an agentic workflow, you're managing a whole portfolio of AI agents that can actually execute tasks on their own.
Okay, so put that in perspective for us. It's kind of like being a general contractor building a house then.
Exactly.
You're not laying the brick yourself. You've got one AI handling the legal code, another drafting blueprints.
Right.
And you're just the one signing off on the final plan.
That's the perfect analogy. And because you're managing these high output agents, the human org chart is flattening out. The report notes that almost 50% of traditional middle management tasks are just being eliminated.
Which makes sense. If I can direct the AIs myself, I don't need a manager to check my work. But this brings us to what they call the skill triad. The report is pretty specific about what you need to survive this.
It's basically the survival kit. The first pillar is AI literacy. And this goes way beyond just knowing how to log in. It's about understanding the failure mode.
Catching the hallucinations, right?
Yeah.
Spotting when the AI is confidently lying to you.
Because if that house collapses, it's on you, not the bot. The liability is still human. And that leads to the second pillar, strategic reasoning.
Okay.
If you stop focusing on execution, like writing the actual code, you have to get very, very good at architecture. Designing the system, defining the scope, knowing what to build, not just how.
So we move from execution up to strategy.
Yeah.
And the third pillar?
Soft skills, empathy, leadership, ethical judgment. The human-centric jobs like healthcare and teaching, they're booming because AI still has, zero EQ.
But this is where the report gets a little dark. They flag something called the entry-level gap.
Yeah.
If AI is doing all the grunt work, what happens to the junior employees?
The bottom rungs of the career ladder are basically being sawed off. Historically, you learn the fundamentals by doing that boring stuff.
Right, you cut your teeth on it.
But if that's all automated, graduates have no clear path to get the experience they need to become one of those senior orchestrators.
It creates a paradox. We need senior experts, but we're destroying the pipeline that creates them. And this connects right back to that wage premium we started with.
It does. It exacerbates the digital divide. All these productivity gains are concentrated in companies and economies that can afford enterprise-grade AI. So the wealth gap just widens aggressively.
That's a really heavy dynamic.
Yeah.
Crisis for juniors, a widening wealth gap. But, and here's the whiplash, the raw numbers in the report argue the work itself isn't disappearing.
Not at all. Despite, I think it was 92 million jobs being displaced by 2030, they're projecting 170 million new roles. That's a net gain of 78 million jobs.
So the economy is growing, but the type of worker it needs has just changed overnight. It's rewarding adaptability over credentials. You have to be that general contractor now.
The human plus AI symbiosis is the new baseline. It's not enough to just be the human anymore.
So we'll leave you with this thought to chew on. It goes back to that entry-level crisis. If AI takes over all the doing, all the execution, and leaves us with only the thinking and strategy, where will the next generation of experts actually learn the fundamentals of their craft well enough to strategize in the first place?
A question we'll probably be trying to answer for the next decade.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time.
Welcome back to The Deep Dive. So today we're tackling what feels like a massive psychological shift.
It really is a complete reframe.
For decades, longevity just meant Eating kale, maybe counting your steps.
Basic maintenance.
Exactly. But we've got the 2026 longevity and AI outlook on the desk, and the goalpost has just completely moved. We aren't just talking about slowing aging down anymore. We're talking about hitting the reverse button.
And the source argues we're entering a biological reset. It's about using AI to fundamentally hack the human operating system.
Okay, so let's start with that, the biology. The report highlights retrobiosciences, that's Sam Altman's venture, using a very specific tool.
Yeah, GPT-4b micro.
Yep.
And this is the key differentiator.
They're not just guessing at chemistry anymore.
Not at all. They're using this specialized AI to optimize what are called Yamanaka factors.
Which are like a factory reset code for your cells, right?
That's a great way to put it. They're protein sequences that tell a cell to revert to a younger state.
But the problem has always been efficiency, getting it to work consistently.
Right. And the report notes that GPT-4b micro identified sequences that boost this reprogramming efficiency by 50-fold.
50. Wow. That is a massive leap.
And it's measurable, too.
With the epigenetic clocks, it mentions one called Dindin pace.
Which is an AI model that can predict your pace of aging with, like, 94% accuracy.
Which means they can test these new chemical cocktails in real time.
Exactly. And in lab settings, they've already managed to reset 80-year-old human cells.
Back to a 40-year-old state.
Physically turning 80 into 40.
So that handles the hardware, but the report also has a plan B.
Right. If the body fails, you preserve the data.
Digital immortality. Neurotech.
And this is moving faster than people realize. We're seeing Neuralink move from just motor control moving a cursor to actual sensory restoration.
With their blind sight tech.
Which is the first step toward full neural mapping.
And to map that, there's this big collaboration between in-brain neuroelectronics and Microsoft.
Using agentic AI. And agentic is the really important word there.
It's not a chatbot just waiting for a prompt.
No, it acts on your behalf. In this context, it's learning your specific, unique neural language. It's decoding how your brain works to build a bridge between your consciousness and code.
So it's translating you, creating a true backup drive.
That's the idea. And while we wait for that, we need maintenance.
Which brings us to the internal repair crew, medical nanobots.
The source calls them biohybrid nanobots, specifically peaky robots.
Tiny little half-millimeter machines that can crawl through tissue.
The 2030 goal is for them to unblock arteries completely autonomously.
But we don't have to wait until 2030 for the benefit.
Oh, not at all. Right now, we're already seeing AI-powered sensors in the blood acting as early warning systems.
So instead of waiting for a symptom to show up,
these sensors can detect a viral load or even cancer cells up to 10 days before you would feel anything is wrong.
It just shifts all of medicine from reactive to predictive. Okay, this timeline is surprisingly aggressive. I want to just map this out because the dates are closer than you'd think.
It is a very tight schedule.
So 2026 to 2028, longevity vaccines.
Right. These are AI-discovered compounds for clearing out zombie cells, the old damaged ones that just clutter up your system.
Then we get to 2030 to 2035, age reversal pills.
And that's the projected window for the FDA to approve drugs that treat aging itself as a curable condition.
Not just a natural process. It's been a bit of a jump, 2040 to 2045, the singularity.
The merger, where human cognitive capabilities integrate with machine intelligence. The end of fixed intelligence.
Which all leads to 2050 and beyond, an indefinite lifespan.
Full body rejuvenation, and of course those viable digital backups.
It is a lot to process. We're looking at a future where that line between biology and technology just dissolves.
It fundamentally changes the human condition.
And that's really the final thought we want to leave you with. If the singularity in 2040 means our minds can be expanded, updated, and merged with software, at what point do we stop being human and become something else entirely?
That is the ultimate question.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you next time.